the world's brokest billionaire. Hello. Welcome to Point of View. Today, I want to talk about Donald Trump. He has lost the election of 2020 to Joe Biden. And by January 20th, 2021, he must vacate the White House. He will face a reckoning on a mountain of debt. Not only is he not too rich to be bought, but he may also well be too poor to turn anyone away. On aspect of Donald Trump's business, it has been the subject of more speculation than his debt load. Lots of people believe the president owes $400 million, especially after Trump seemed to agree with that figure on national television Thursday night. However, he owes more than $1 billion. The loans are spread out over more than a dozen different assets: hotels, buildings, mansions, and golf courses. Most are listed on the financial disclosure report Trump files annually with the federal government. Two, which add up to an estimated $447 million, are not. It is important to note that he also has significant assets. Forbes values them at $3.66 billion, enough to make his net worth an estimated $2.5 billion. He is not broke, despite what many critics claim. Why on earth would Deutsche Bank have lent hundreds of millions to Donald Trump given his track record of stiffing his lenders, including Deutsche Bank itself? One conspiracy theory is that Deutsche Bank agreed to make the loans because they were backstopped by Russians, the Kremlin, or a state-owned bank, or an oligarch. If Mr. Trump were to default, it would be the Russians, not Deutsche Bank, on the hook for the losses. For details of the story, we will go to Ali Veshi of MSNBC, live interview with Andrew Weissman and Tim O'Brien.
Andrew, let's just rewind this a little bit so our viewers can remember what this is all about. We know that Deutsche Bank has been the banker to the Trumps for 2 decades. And we know that the bank had its own documentation that indicated that at various times in the lending of over $2 billion, Donald Trump was a bad risk. He's not somebody that a financial institution, particularly a public company, should have been lending to. And there are all sorts of questions circulating about why Deutsche Bank would have been involved with the Trumps and what they know. What does this lead you to believe?
So I think it's really interesting because I think two things. One, it confirms what we learned just a few days ago from the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, which is that their investigation, as you noted, is not just about hush money payments. To me, this is going to be a classic money laundering and sort of bank fraud investigation where you look to see what were the representations made to the bank. So I think that the DA's office is going to be scouring the Deutsche Bank documents to see what exactly was told to the bank about the Trump Organization assets. The other thing that I think is fascinating is that, we had a case, the Mazars case, that went all the way up to the Supreme Court litigating whether the Manhattan District Attorney could get documents from the Trump Organization accountants. In the meantime, Deutsche Bank, instead of litigating it, just handed over the documents. My suspicion is it's a question of timing. I think that the Deutsche Bank subpoena was given by the Manhattan DA's office while the special counsel was still in operation. It would have given Donald Trump an incentive to not fight it publicly. So my suspicion is that the reason you're hearing that it happened so long ago is it happened while the special counsel's office was still investigating. And the reason that Mazars was litigated is because that subpoena was issued after the special counsel's office investigation had officially closed.
Mazars, of course, the accountants for Donald Trump. Tim O'Brien, there was this remarkable piece in the New York Times. It was 12 pages or something of newspaper ink about the degree to which Donald Trump's family and business dealings were not kosher, to say the least. In it, there was an allegation that Donald Trump underestimated the value of some of his assets for purposes of taxation, which would lead him to have lower tax liability, and overestimated them for purposes of the bank. Do you think this has something to do with this whole thing?
I would suspect not in this case, Ali. I mean, the DA may go there, but I think a lot of the transactions, the times we're looking at in the piece you're referring to, I think the statute of limitations may have run out in terms of tax fraud. Andrew touched on the issue of money laundering. I think that's very salient here. The question that has always hung over Deutsche Bank is, after the early 1990s, when every other major money center bank fled from Donald Trump because he essentially welched on over $3 billion in loans, Deutsche Bank came back and decided to do business with him. They litigated in the mid-2000s after Trump tried to walk away from a big Deutsche Bank loan on his Chicago property, and yet the bank kept doing business with him. They moved his business from the commercial side of the bank into their private bank. So why has Deutsche Bank, among all other major banks, continued to do business with the president? Deutsche Bank itself has had a long history of troubles, including money laundering issues that have drawn the attention of regulators in the U.S. and Europe. Deutsche Bank knows very well that Donald Trump has inflated his assets for a long time. When we litigated, we produced a document in that litigation. When we litigated with Trump, he sued me for libel over my biography. Deutsche Bank had an assessment of Trump's wealth in 2004 at $788 million, at a time when Trump was saying he was worth $6 billion. So the idea that Trump is out there inflating his wealth isn't a new thing for Deutsche Bank. I think where this goes around, bank fraud and insurance fraud and possible money laundering is the stuff that could really worry Trump.
Now, after losing the 2020 presidential election, Mr. Trump will soon become a private citizen again. That means he will lose his presidential privileges, putting him in the crosshairs of litigators and prosecutors. Once he is out of office, the atmosphere will change, Daniel Alonso, a former U.S. federal and New York state prosecutor, told the BBC. He will no longer have the reality or the threat of presidential power to thwart investigations. A wide-ranging criminal investigation in New York is the most serious legal concern for Mr. Trump and his real estate company, the Trump Organization. Emolument is an archaic word that is seldom used today, except in legal contexts. The definition is contested, but it is generally understood to mean gain, profit, or advantage from employment or holding public office. On top of that, there is an array of lawsuits, ranging from allegations of fraud by a family member to sexual harassment by an advice columnist. A legal storm is brewing. We have come to the end of this video. Thank you for watching. Let us know the videos you like and leave your comments below. We have new video every week, so be sure to hit the red button below. Thank you.